It was supposedly presented this way to Ted Koppel. Imagine making Nightline so vital, so necessary, so permanent that it continues for years, decades, continues as your newscast even after you've stopped doing it. Now merely swap out newscast for war, and you have Mr. Bush and Iraq and the candidates at a Republican debate last night, a debate that at times seems to have been patched together with sound bites from March of 2003, full of guarantees about weapons of mass destruction, the joyous endlessness of troop escalation, and the general bloodlust of the GOP. Our third story tonight, well, it is not unheard of for presidential candidates of any stripe to lie about what they will do next. Last night's defenses of the Iraq War included a remarkably large quantity of lies about what has already happened before. The Republican candidates last night fell over themselves and the truth to praise the war and continued deployment there, despite the benefit to Iran, despite Iraq's failure to reconcile politically, despite the loss of life, despite the toll on the U.S. military, a toll raised in one question submitted last night.
You have stated that you would leave troops in Iraq for an indefinite period. How will you do this, both militarily and economically? Please, no generalities.
I know of no military leader, including General Petraeus, that says we can't sustain our effort in Iraq. So you're wrong.
General Petraeus 1 year ago, quote, "The Army is stretched and straining." Army Chief of Staff General George Casey last month, quote, "We're deploying at unsustainable rates." So you're wrong, Senator. Of course, there was plenty of wrong to go around. Here is Willard Mitt Romney last night perpetrating that al-Qaeda lie.
It is simply unthinkable that the Democrats would have said at that debate when they were asked, what's more important to you, that we get out or that we win? That with their answer, they wouldn't answer it directly, but with each of their answer, it was very clear getting out was their only objective. Just get out as fast as you can, regardless of the consequences. And that's simply wrong. We cannot turn Iraq over to al-Qaeda and have al-Qaeda have a safe haven from which they can recruit people to carry out bombings, to attack this country and our friends around the world. It's unthinkable, and that's why I will not walk away from Iraq until we have been successful and finish that job.
You already finished the job. Saddam is gone. Also, the real al-Qaeda has a real safe haven right now. It's called Pakistan. And al-Qaeda in Iraq cannot win in Iraq, vastly outnumbered as it is by both Sunni and Shia, who hate them. It was foreign policy neophyte Mike Huckabee who dredged up the original lie, one he failed to realize would be the greatest possible indictment of the president's war.
We owe him our thanks that he had the courage to recognize there was a potential of weapons of mass destruction, and rather than wait until we had another attack, he went and made sure that it wasn't going to happen from Saddam Hussein. Now everybody can look back and say, oh, well, we didn't find the weapons. Doesn't mean they weren't there. Just because you didn't find every Easter egg didn't mean that it wasn't planted.
Damn, we didn't find every Easter egg. A, the FBI agent who interrogated Saddam Hussein says the tyrant kept his lack of WMD a secret, thinking the U.S. would not invade. And B, if Huckabee were right and there were WMD, that would mean they are now in the hands of terrorists, thanks to President Bush. Here with us for more post-game fun is Sam Seder, the host of Air America's Radio's Seder on Sundays. Sam, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Keith.
Can we pre-impeach somebody?
I'll tell you, I'm willing to bet I know what's going to be the first ad of the general election. It's going to involve one of those clips. I mean, it was pretty astonishing.
But who do you go? I mean, who do you go for first? Was Huckabee the craziest of them last night?
The Easter egg comment was a little bit strange. I mean, that must be one heck of an Easter egg hunt when they've got all those thousands of CIA weapons inspectors and 150,000 troops, and somehow they can't locate those Easter eggs. It's just bizarre.
Well, of all the imagery also to come up with, the thing that trivializes the whole process. I don't know, could you think of a worse analogy?
I think he's trying to signal to us that his fantasies about Iraq are similar to those of a child in regards to the Easter Bunny. I mean, that's the only thing I could imagine.
How much of this do you suppose last night, because it did seem to be so over the top, even for Republicans, which is really saying something, even on this topic, how much of this might have been for the nomination process to fire up the proverbial base? Would they really trot any of this crap out for the general election?
Well, I mean, that's the amazing thing. I mean, that occurred to me. Can you imagine John McCain sitting next to a congressman who's on the brink of losing his job, and the question's raised, Would you do this all over again? I mean, you now know there's no weapons of mass destruction. There's no threat to this country, killing 300 to 600,000 people, 4,000 American lives, trillions and trillions of dollars, and you want to do it again? You're going to see that congressman just slink off somewhere.
Well, it'll be preceded by my dear friends, so everything will be okay. To whatever degree the bloodlust is genuine, why consistently aim it at Iraq? Is it you don't want to change the storyline to where the genuine threat of a reconstituted al-Qaeda would be, which is on that Afghan-Pakistan border?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a function of how narrow the Republican base has become. I mean, you've got 25% of the Republican Party that is just, and basically of the nation, that is basically just holding on bare-knuckled to this notion that what we did was not a horrible, horrible mistake, and it was. It boggles the imagination.
Now, jumping to President Bush, we mentioned this earlier, that he's heading into this talks with Iraq to get a treaty. He's not going to call it a treaty because he doesn't then have to run it past Congress, at least he thinks. But why is he going to circumvent the Senate? Why not go for the treaty? Because it's not like the Senate gives him a lot of a fight on anything.
Well, I mean, I guess the point is he feels that if you can really break the Constitution, I mean, if you can really slaughter this thing, why not just go for it? I mean, he's basically swinging for the fences on this one, and he figures no one's going to say anything. I mean, he's going to go down in the history books.
See, I never thought of it this way. He's playing for another member of the family later down the line that could become president, to make it a complete monarchy later on in the year 2020 or so.
If you can go for the superlative, you go for the superlative, I think, in this situation.
Sam Seder of Air America. Thanks for coming in, Sam.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good weekend.
You too.